The minister took valuable time out of his very congested agenda to be with us. A very important visitor is coming from abroad. The minister is required to meet him, but he came nonetheless, for which we are extremely grateful. He now has to rush to the airport to catch the flight to Islamabad, and therefore Is it me now?
Yes.
Okay.
वीडियो वाला पूरा बोलना चाहता हूँ
कोई गया मिनिस्टर साहब के साथ? Okay, I'm told Okay, I'm told by Adnan that we've already overshot by about 15 minutes. So I'm going to, I said the bulk of what I needed to say about the Pakistan program yesterday. So let me just be extremely brief. I will not use the presentation. You know, I spent 2 decades working at the World Bank, and I was right in the trenches. So I was on the operation side, and you know, the World Bank has started adjustment lending loans. So we were transferring huge volumes of money to countries. During the East Asia crisis, as the lead economist for the Thailand program, I was part of the team, led the team that did the bulk of that lending. And we thought that money is what makes a difference in terms of effecting policy change. Money certainly made a difference, because when a country is in a severe balance of crisis situation, not having access to money can make things extremely painful. But I was never convinced that the money actually gets policy reform going. We signed off on all kinds of interesting policy agreements. Some stayed, most didn't. So when IGC came up with the idea that it's really knowledge that makes the difference and not the money, it was too tempting to let go. So I got involved with the IGC program, and the entire IGC team. We have 4 of us in the leadership team: Asim Khaja, lead academic, Nawed Hamid, co-country director, and Ali Chima, lead academic. We all took up this challenge and said, how do we then make sure that ideas do actually make a difference? And what we've learned in the course of phase 1 of the IGC program, which is the 3-year program which just concluded last summer, we found out that the ideas do make a difference. But it's extremely painful to get those ideas across. You literally have to sit in the trenches. We have 2 outstanding examples of engagement here in Punjab. These have been mentioned earlier also. One is the property tax reform that Asim Khaja is leading. The other one also Asim Khaja is leading, and that's the Skills Development Fund program. Ideas, the use of ideas to inform the rollout of the program, the design of policy, is integral to the way the whole program has been designed. But I can tell you something, and I think this IGC senior management needs to understand. for that knowledge to get, first of all, for it to be generated, and then for it to get traction on the ground, requires enormous amount of transaction time. It's not easy, it's not straightforward, but once it happens, it really is, it puts you on a highly elevated level of understanding how knowledge and policy come together. So it's not an easy road, but once you get there, it's a scenic highway. So highly recommended. We've had in phase one, we have completed nearly 70 different research projects, all of them very proactively engaging with both the federal government and the government in Punjab. These projects have all fallen in the four principal themes in which IGC organizes itself. The theme of state capability, that includes macroeconomic management and service delivery. We've had a very interesting and exciting engagement primarily with the private sector under the theme of firm capability. And in the course of this conference, you will hear about some of the examples which illustrate how researchers can add value not just to a public servant in the design of policy, but also to an entrepreneur as he or she seek to move the firm to a higher level of competitiveness. We have also had an early engagement in the area of urbanization. As we all know, Pakistan and Punjab are one of the most rapidly urbanizing regions in South Asia. And understanding the dynamics of cities and then intervening in that dynamic to make sure that cities don't end up becoming, dens of unhappiness and crime and pollution, but instead they become clusters of productivity and high growth. It depends enormously how those cities are managed. And we've had several very interesting interventions in that area with engagement with the Punjab government. The question that I put to the minister on the role of the federal government in a highly decentralized structure is one that we all need to think about very seriously as we design our interventions, because there is a risk, and a lot of people talk about that risk, of one province, in particular in Pakistan, if it begins to do the right things, the things that result in higher productivity, whether it's the public sector or the private sector, there is a high risk that it will tear away glaringly from other provinces, and that may cause political problems down the road. Sujit's argument that knowledge should send the right signals to the other provinces also is well taken. In fact, when the election of May 2013 happened, the initial response to that election was that Pakistan has now centrifugal tendencies once again. We've got PTI government in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we've got PPP in Sindh and PMLN in Punjab. What will this do to the country going forward? But fortunately, all three political parties, the prize in their eyes is Islamabad. They're not parochial parties, neither PPP nor PTI nor of course PMLN. And therefore, what the election result has established is it has established the principle of contestability very effectively, because PTI can demonstrate its ability to govern a very difficult province and therefore make a bid for the federation next time around. Similarly, PPP unless the governance, economic governance in Sindh improves, the chances of PPP to capture the federation again are going to be extremely difficult. So we have now in the political process a very, very healthy competition. And previously you could argue that, given the way the NFC award is structured, and given the way the federation manages the provinces, provinces are not at liberty to realize fully their respective growth potential or their respective service delivery potentials. But that has now changed. Provinces have the money, they have the financial resources, and the constitutional mandate to deliver in the respective programs. So how this plays out in the future is going to be very interesting, and I think it creates very interesting areas of research for the IGC within the 4 themes that I talked about. Now, so that was phase 1. We've had several successes of which we can boast. We have had several duds, completed the work, it's lying there. We keep reminding them that, you may want to look at it, and we get sympathetic smiles, but nothing happens. So we've had a mix of results in phase 1. Phase 2 is going to be very interesting, because in phase 2, IGC is itself making a transition and giving a lot more emphasis to the research component of the program. For example, in phase 1, we had a predominant delivery in phase 1 was what we call country policy studies. These are much more along the line that you see, I would like to say, the best work done by the World Bank in Pakistan, or the best work done by anybody else in Pakistan. A IGC model is different. IGC model is extremely data intensive, is a lot of RCTs, and of course RCT gives enormous insights, but RCT is highly painful in terms of transactions. So it'll be very interesting that when in phase 2 we see the focus shifting much more towards delivery of the research agenda. It'd be very interesting how we as a team cope with the transaction costs that are involved with the analytical method that most of the IGC has adopted. So let me conclude there. I will invite Naved and Asim to say a few words, especially on phase 2. Maybe Asim a couple of minutes, and then we conclude the session.
We're running late, so talk is cheap, so I think we should just listen to a lot of the papers. Let me just mention very briefly, I think the first stage that Ijaz said, I want to mention 2 things at the first stage that I think we were unsure about, but have worked well. And then really focus on what we're going to do in phase 2. I think in phase 1, one of the things we weren't sure of is to what extent would outside researchers be interested in engaging in Pakistan, given the issues that you think Pakistan faces. I think I'm very, very surprised, pleasantly, at the supply elasticity of outside researchers, which is we have a lot more outside researchers willing to come in and engage in Pakistan, and I think that's a great sign for us. There's a lot we can learn from that. I think the second thing we weren't sure of is how would the research policymaker engagement go. I think we've had, as Ijaz mentioned, quite a few examples now of successful research policymaker engagements which have started. So I think that's very encouraging as well. In phase 2, I think the honest answer is, the minister said we have a more knowledge and less doing. I actually think it's the opposite. We have a lot of doing with very little knowledge. So my concern is that the reality of the situation we have in Pakistan is there's just very little evidence of a lot of the decisions we're making. We start programs, for instance, we just started a massive loan program to the youth. I've yet to see a design for that program, an evaluation of the program, any empirical evidence for why we're doing it. But even more concerning, will it have any benefit? So my concern right now is, and I think this is going to be a challenge for us in phase 2, which is, and this is not just picking on Pakistan, by the way, this is true with most developing countries. Most policies that we do without any evidence to them. And I'm not saying this is a sort of a war cry for researchers to come along. It's simply a recognition that these are long processes. You need to have the political will and the willingness to kind of engage with them. But also, I think the honest answer is you need local research capacity. And I think Pakistan, the phase which I'm fascinated by, there's some great local researchers I've met in Pakistan, but I think what IGC would love to be able to do, and in some small way, is really provide resources to the local researchers we have in Pakistan, both in terms of matching them to outside researchers, but also direct resource provision. These are sort of requests for proposals. We've been running, so at the end of this month, we're going to have a call for proposals. Just to give you an example, the last time we ran a call for proposals was a couple of months ago. We got something like 70 odd proposals. The vast majority of them actually were by local researchers. So I think that's a really encouraging sign. So that's something I'm looking forward to. I'm hoping that we'll get more and more of that, and I'm hoping for a lot of you who are kind of local researchers over here, I'm hoping you apply more. The next round is the end of this month, so please do apply to that. In terms of sort of policymaker access, I mean, I see several people over here who are in the policy circle, and I'd love, the minister had a great invitation to us, and I'd like the policymakers to kind of sort of move forward on that, which is to have researchers engage in policy. And this could be something as simple as giving access to data. Look, there's several data sets we've collected. I have pet peeves on data sets which haven't been released. For instance, the economic census, the census of establishments, we did it quite a while ago, I guess, 10 years ago now, and I'm not sure if researchers have had access to it. It's a great data set. There are lots of other data sets we're coming up with. BISP, for instance, the Benazir Income Support Program, it's a massive data set. I'm not sure how much access researchers have had to that. So I think the State Bank, I've been very lucky with Atif to have access from the data from the State Bank. But again, it hasn't been made available as easily to other researchers. So I think these things need to happen. So I don't want to kind of be a wet blanket in the proceedings, but the honest answer is that both until we get enough local researchers excited about doing research and we get enough local policymakers open and willing to engage in that, I think we'll always kind of have this knowledge gap. But at the same time, I'm hopeful. I think the trend that we've seen in phase 1 has been very encouraging. The sense I've seen from both the minister and the chief minister yesterday, we have secretary planning of it over here as well, is that these are things which there is appetite now in the government to do it. I think if there's a few positive instances of these interactions, it lays the foundation hopefully for many more. So with that, I'll just stop.
I'm also going to take just a couple of minutes, and I won't go with the program. I think Ijaz has spelled it out nicely, and we talked a bit about it yesterday on the new areas of energy, urbanization, and so on. But I would just want to talk a bit about this link between research and policy impact. And we have the naive view that you do some research and then suddenly people will adapt it, and Ahsan talked about it. So I want to just talk about a few cases how research and policy linkages develop in reality. And the fact that we've been working on these things for 3-4 years makes it possible that we will have much greater impact in the next phase 2. And there are a couple of projects I would just want to, as illustration, use these, or 3 projects, for example. The project which Ahsan and Ben Olkin are working on in property tax. They look at incentives for inspectors. They move from there to broader issues of transfers, civil service reform, and they've been engaged for 3 years, and it's now beginning to get to a point where they are going to have in the next 3 years much greater impact, say, on civil service reform. Similarly, on health, Mike Callan did this study on monitoring the monitors with mobile phones, and then found that in some areas they were responsive to this, others even when they knew they were absenteeism, nothing happened. So again, he is moving on to what motivates the civil servant and what things. So that's the next project. And so again, a long-term involvement. Eric Vahugan and Azam, they've been working on this technology transfers and spillovers. And then they found out that even when the new technology was made available, it was not being adopted. So they moved to why, and they found that the cutters were the bottleneck. So they came up with innovation there, which now had made it very effective. And so, but the other point was that why was this technology out there? Why was it not thought of by the soccer ball makers themselves? So they moved on to Innovation Development Fund. What is there? How can we move? So I think this is an organic process of engagement, which one is of learning by the researchers of the reality on ground, and then two, a greater credibility with the policymakers, with the decision makers, and so on and so forth, and therefore over time having both more relevance as well as then greater impact, because you're working on the issues that matter. The third one I just wanted to mention was on the garment sector, where a broader study of what was done by Ijaz and myself, and that led to what the Chief Minister was talking about, the garment city and the engagement with the Federal Bureau and others to improve performance and exports and competitiveness. But also has led to now Chris Woodruff and Azam and Teresa working on the benchmarking study. And so it's moving from more directly from policy engagement to research side. So both directions are possible, and I think that, but what does matter is Chris has been engaged with us 3-4 years, Eric had been engaged, Asim, Ben, Mike, Alan, and all these people. And that's where now we are building up this critical mass of researchers who begin to know the Pakistan reality and begin to then do research which really is fine-tuned to the conditions. And that goes to the example Asim was giving about the machine, that now we are getting into really interesting issues, and I think this research is going to be much more relevant and much more, have much greater impact. So I just wanted to give these examples as indication of the where we are headed, and I see with all the researchers here, long-term engagement on Pakistan will yield rich dividends in terms of impact on policy and better evidence-based policy making. Thank you.